Hi everyone, I'm Chrissy B, bringing you the UK's only TV programme dedicated to your mental health and well-being, The Chrissy B Show. Now, bipolar, anxiety, depression, mania, self-harm, how can anyone possibly be able to deal with so many issues? For many, suicide seems like the only option. And that was the case of today's real-life story guest, Colin Dolan, who did attempt suicide because of the mental health issues I mentioned. However, he is now the chief executive of the UK's Mental Health Football Association, having returned to playing football at 47 years old. He is here to talk about how football helped him and is helping others. Also on the show today, we have our resident psychologist, Dr Audrey Tang, in this week's Psychology Matters segment, talking about the importance of finding a purpose in life. And Helena Chard shares positive news in this week's A Helping of Happy. Dr Rob Hicks is back to answer all of your medical questions, and business expert Chelsey Baker will be giving tips on how to overcome challenges and setbacks. And nutritionist Lily Soutter will be answering your nutritional questions. We'd also like to hear from you, our lovely viewers. Now, have you found your purpose in life? What do you look forward to in life? Email us on info@chrissybshow.tv. You can also tweet us at Chrissy B Show or leave a message on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. So let's get started with our real life story guest, Colin Dolan. Welcome to the show, Colin.
Pleased to be here.
It's lovely to have you here. So can you tell us, first of all, a bit about your background with your mental health issues? When did everything start?
Well, I wasn't diagnosed until I was in my mid to late 20s, but my episodes of mania and depression began late teens, early 20s. I noticed that very early on that there was something just a little bit different about me, didn't quite fit in. I was ill quite a bit at the time, but I disguised it. I used to hide it. I would make excuses to drink too much. I would make excuses by having arguments and fights with my wife eventually. And this all culminated into my early 20s. I injured my back, lost my job.
What were you doing at the time?
I was a manager in a factory, or an assistant manager in a factory in Glasgow. I had the job for 10 years. I was very secure in it. Injured my back, and because I was off a long time, I lost the job through redundancy. That made a bad time for me and the wife. So we fell out, and everything culminated. I was also in depression leading up to it, and that was my first suicide attempt. That was, I think, I'm not quite sure of the date, but I was in my early 20s anyway, and I tried to take my own life.
Wow.
I was luckily found by my wife, who'd come home at the time and found me.
Okay. Would you say that was like the worst moment for you at the time or have you been through even?
Oh, since then I've had many other attempts. I've come close to dying. The worst one being 2001. It's the 2nd of July 2001. I took an overdose, went into a coma, and had to be resuscitated. I was very close to dying, so I'm very lucky to be here, very lucky. Again, on that occasion I was found, and it was simply because I sent text messages to people telling them goodbye.
Oh, wow.
And
okay.
People put two and two together and realised he was having an attempt at his life.
But had you tried to speak to anyone though? Because I know before you said you kept everything in.
I didn't.
You couldn't.
I couldn't. I was totally and utterly ashamed, and I felt that people would look at me as if I was some sort of weirdo, some oddball. I had all these names in my mind, thinking, what are they going to call me next? I certainly didn't want to face up to it, and I didn't take, and I do regret it, I have to say, I very much regret it. I didn't take medical advice. Doctors told me to take medication, doctors told me to take time off work, doctors told me to do various activities. I totally blanked them, and I just thought, no, I can do this on my own. I don't want people to know that I'm going to see a psychiatrist. That was the last person I wanted to see, because that was me, in my opinion, that was me giving in to mental health problem.
Do you see things differently now, though?
Totally.
Okay, I'll just check.
Totally.
I just wanted to check. Okay, so how did you actually then move on? Because I know you do still struggle with mental health issues, but what keeps you positive now and like going? Because your last suicide attempt was 2001, you said, right?
I've actually that was the most serious one that I have tried since then, and even in this period I'm in now since May, I've had suicidal thoughts. I was on suicide watch only 4 weeks ago. I had to be monitored 24 hours a day by either my partner, I had football, my teammates coming and looking after me, and I had the care coming in from the NHS to look after me from time to time as well. So I'm still under the care of a psychiatrist because of the latest attempts, and that led me to I self-harm. And one of the reasons I self-harm is when I get right close to the very edge and I'm just about to take the pills, I'm about to
then you do that.
And then that's my form of release. That's my switch off. Yeah. So my coping mechanisms now is to stop me going over the top, I self-harm, but to help cope and with everyday bipolar, I moved on to football. I was introduced to Everton and the Community's Imagine Your Goals programme back in 2012. This was my wife, or my partner of 16 years now, Michelle, discovered this for me, and between herself and the CPN, they encouraged me to go along and return to playing football as a fat old 47-year-old man, and I couldn't believe they wanted me to do this, and I was no intention of doing it. And I went along the first time just to keep them quiet, but I fell in love with it immediately.
What was it about it?
Basically, first of all, it was once I was on the pitch, because I've always played football, I'm on that pitch, I was just concentrating on doing everything right in the pitch. So all the other thoughts, all the negative thoughts were gone. I wasn't thinking about any self-harm, I wasn't thinking about the negative thoughts, I wasn't thinking about suicide, I wasn't thinking about being worthless. I was thinking about, right, control the ball, look up, pass the ball, all the normal things you would do on a football pitch. Yeah. And I left the first session, and I've just been saying this in the green room, it really isn't, it's a true story. I left the first session and I floated home along a very famous road, Penny Lane in Liverpool, and I still get goosebumps thinking about it, because for the first time I was out of a football environment, but I was feeling there's some buzz about it, and it was like taking medicine that had a lasting effect. Okay.
So that was your kind of medication?
For me, it's therapy, it's medication, and that's led to so many other things in my life since I joined that program.
What are you doing now then?
Now I run the Mental Health Football Association. We have basically brought together as many programmes up and down the country. So we've got the likes of your Aberdeen, your Arsenal, your Chelsea, your Spurs, your Evertons, Wrexham. We've got clubs all over the country and small individual charities that use football as a form of therapy for people with mental health issues. We've brought them all together to help encourage local leagues, national leagues, cup tournaments, and we get people to also help them, give them the opportunity to travel abroad and play in tournaments all over Europe. So, I mean, I've been lucky. I've played in 5 tournaments in Europe.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, and I've won 4 of them, so I've done not too badly. I'm not a bad player.
How long ago was it when you actually were playing like football?
But I initially stopped playing when I was 27. I went back to it in my 30s, and then I lived in Madrid for a while and I played in my early 40s. But at 47, I never expected to play in competitive football again. And it's a decent standard as well. It is good. I'm playing against people and with some people that are half my age and are very good footballers. Really? Yeah. I've kept up. I won't keep up with them at the moment, but generally I do. When I get fit again, I'll try. All right.
So Colin, what would you say then to others that maybe are, because I know you mentioned about feeling ashamed to open up and feeling like you were the oddball and everything like that, but there are lots of people that do feel that way, and they think, I don't want to say anything because I don't want to lose my friends, or I don't want to seem as the odd one out. What would you say to them?
Well, today's society, the stigma around mental health is decreasing all the time, in my opinion. I think it is decreasing. I think we see that through the online activities from a number of people, a number of organisations, as well as the social media, the standard media as well, whether it be tabloids, whether it be TV. So the stigma's reducing, and I would say to anyone that there's absolutely nothing to be ashamed of. you don't hide a broken leg. Why would you hide a broken head? It doesn't make any sense to me. And I started campaigning, as well as doing my football activities, to try and encourage people to speak as openly about mental health as they do as about physical health. And I see no reason why they shouldn't be spoken about on par. So if you've got a problem, I would always recommend people to reach out, speak to someone initially. That doesn't have to be a mental health expert or a medical expert. It could be a friend, could be a work colleague, could be a member of the family, someone just to reach out, and then you can take the next step to speak to the NHS, or even pick up the phone and phone someone similar to, or the Samaritans.
Yeah. And what about for you? What do you see for your future? Have you got any plans? Or
I'm looking forward to getting stuck back into the work I do with the Mental Health Football Association. I want to get around the country as much as I can and do my talks. I do a lot of public speaking. I enjoy speaking to the young football players. I enjoy that at the academies. I've enjoyed that a few times, and I also like to get out to businesses as well, because they seem to be one sector of the community that's left alone. So the workplace is very important with mental health, so I like to go and visit corporate companies.
And how does it feel for you to be coming on TV today to talk about this? Because I know it wasn't easy for you to come here today.
It wasn't. It's taken a lot today, considering I've been ill since May, and this is basically the first thing I've done on my own without Michelle holding my hand, without one of my teammates being there for me, or without a friend being beside me. I've done nothing on my own now since May. I went on holiday only recently, but I was with Michelle all the time, so I felt safe. But today I've travelled down from Liverpool on the train on my own. It was a strange experience, even getting coffee spilt on me.
Talking about this before.
You knew that was going to come up. But it took a lot for me to come down today, but I was determined.
You've done it.
I was determined to. I said I would come on the show.
Yeah.
And I was determined to stick to my words and do it.
Amazing. See, sometimes we're a lot stronger than what we think we are, isn't it? You think, no, I can't do it. I can't go on. I can't do certain things. But there's something inside that. If you just use that, you can. I
certainly have a fire in my belly about certain things, and if me coming on the show today may go on to help someone else, then it was worthwhile the days travelling.
Definitely, I agree. Colin, thank you so much.
Pleasure.
And we'll speak again soon. Keep us updated about your progress and everything.
Yeah,
wonderful.
No problem.
All right, everybody, after the break, I'm going to be speaking to resident psychologist Dr. Audrey Tang in this week's Psychology Matters segment, and she'll be telling us about the importance of finding a purpose in life. And also, Helena Chard has picked up some positive news pieces to share with us in this week's A Helping of Happy. Who knows what MHD stands for? Oh, brilliant, yes, Mental Health Dance Challenge. Welcome back to the Chrissy B Show, everyone, the UK's only programme that's dedicated to mental health and well-being. So now it's time for Dr. Audrey Tang in our Psychology Matters segment. Hello, Audrey.
Hello, Chrissy. Thanks for having me.
So you met Colin earlier.
Yes.
Really, amazing stories, been through a lot, poor thing.
Really, really lovely guy as well. And it can take so much out of you to do something like this, and also to come here and talk about it as well. That I know we were discussing just in the break there that he's probably going to be completely exhausted when he gets back home, but it's so wonderful and so inspirational that he's been able to do it.
Yeah, he's going to feel good about doing that, definitely.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
It was funny just speaking to him in the green room though, because he kind of summed up his whole story in about 3 lines. And I said to him, I think the journey was longer than that, wasn't it? He went, yes, there's a lot more to it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We need to have him back on because there's so many elements to his story. So we'll be meeting him again, definitely.
Yeah,
so Audrey, tell us about how important it is to find the purpose in life like Colin has.
Really great for our mental health. Research has shown that if we have a purpose or feel we have a purpose, it leads to fewer cognitive events. So it doesn't necessarily prevent Alzheimer's, but fewer reports of it happen to be with people who are quite dedicated to a specific purpose.
Yeah.
And fewer cardiac events are reported as well. So those are very good.
Yeah.
But there is a question over whether, if you feel you have a purpose, you maybe look after yourself a little bit more, look after your body a little bit more, so you take better care of your health, because you know that you're getting up for something in particular.
Okay.
Purposes are wonderful. They are bigger than goals. That's the thing to remember. It's a lot more universal when you have a purpose. It's often for a cause. Often it can come out of something quite painful that you discover a purpose. But often with purpose, it's something you care very deeply about, and it's not just the same as doing one run or doing one event or something like that. It's often a much more ongoing thing.
Okay.
It's really good for us.
For those that don't have a purpose yet, how can they actually find one, do you think?
Well, first of all, make sure you're not living someone else's purpose. Now, this can be quite a big thing. Parents may sometimes, it's known as a parental script, they might have a script written out for us before we're even born.
I had one of those.
Where you're going to become this and you're going to do that. And then if we don't want to do that, that can lead to friction and problems. And then when we realise that's not what we really want to do, that's even worse. But it was Oliver James who talks about that, but it's worth looking into. Otherwise, if you're looking for something, then think about what you're passionate about, because that's the key drive, or which group or cause or person you want to help. But what comes into this is sacrifice as well. This doesn't necessarily mean a massive sacrifice. It's not as if necessarily you're going to go off and join Doctors Without Borders or something like that and spend a whole year abroad. But it can be smaller things. Are you willing to, maybe if you are training for a marathon, like one of your guests was, are you willing to change your fitness regime in order to do that? Are you willing to maybe devote a little bit more time to do something? So sometimes it's a case of thinking about what you're passionate about, what drives you to do it, and also what you're willing to sacrifice for it, or what you're naturally good at anyway. And that's another thing that's quite interesting. For yourself, you're such a wonderful presenter. This is a very natural way to keep raising awareness of mental health and well-being. Because I write, I've collaborated with a millennial blogger, and we've created a motivational calendar. However, there's one that's sold specifically for a children's mental health charity as well. Lovely, and so again, you're able to help, but in a way that suits you as well. So it's about recognising what you're good at and what you can contribute. But the thing to remember as well is, whilst a lot of people talk about grandiose purposes, and it's great if you have something like that, sometimes even something as simple as adopting a pet, that can be something. Volunteering at a soup kitchen, that can be something as well. And if I may, I wanted to indulge in a little quote. It's from a book that my grandpa wrote back in Malaysia. And he was quoting a spiritual leader that he worked with. And he said, it's a little prayer, and it's, may I, in every day, in every way, make the world a little better than it was when I came into it. And that's a lovely purpose.
That's nice, brilliant. Perfect to end on that, Audrey. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we shall see you again next time. Yes. Thank you. All right, so now everybody, it's time to go to Helena Chard in this week's A Helping of Happy. Welcome to the show, Helena.
Thank you, Chrissy.
Time for some happy, positive news.
Yes, absolutely. So today, the world is full of unsung heroes who deserve recognition. So I'm talking some funny little stories, which is quite uplifting. Okay, so most children dread their hospital appointments, as we know, and in an attempt to cheer up his patients, Tony Adkins, who's a paediatric neurosurgery physician assistant, that's a bit of a mouthful, in California, brings seriously ill children to their feet dancing. So which is really, really good fun. There's a lovely YouTube clip. And this is in a hospital, Orange County. And obviously, as we know, studies show that when people laugh and smile and become more interactive, it improves their mood and health and everything. It's actually far better than pain medication a lot of the time. But it's amazing because he and his team dance and really gets them into it. And the kids actually nickname him the Dancing Doc. And he's trying to protect the magic of childhood as well, despite the prognosis, because some of the prognoses are not so positive, which is great. But it also allows him to assess patients' physical abilities and mobility and recovery progress. So there's the clinical value that it has. And there's just one little sample where he had a young boy who'd had his operation, etc., and he wouldn't move. And he sort of invited him to dance, and then they were dancing around, and then he couldn't stop him dancing, and he was dancing around the ward. But it just goes to show how good it makes him feel. Yeah. And he says, obviously, seeing his patients smiling and hearing them laugh is brilliant. It's the best thing in the world. And it's his self-care too, which is the concept that we really like. A fun one as well, which I think teaches everyone always to think out of the box and try and be solution focused. So Kenneth Capron, who lives in Portland, USA, he's determined, because it's something that's going on at the moment, to find a solution to the house situation there, the homeless situation. And he addressed the council recently to transform a decommissioned cruise ship into a sort of community place for vulnerable people. Okay. Because they need at least 1,000 housing units, and this cruise ship just on its own could house roughly 800 people with 300 staff. Wow. But also offer services like job skills training and counselling and support. And maybe it's not a long-term issue, but it certainly would help in the interim, which is really good. It's just really creative, isn't it? And everyone thinks like that with things.
But how's it going now? Is he making any progress?
In the middle. It has to be signed off by the council and everything. But it's definitely he's not sure whether it's a mad thing or whether it's a great thing. But he's obviously quite entrepreneurial. And he's got
such a good idea.
He's got and it's called Hope Harbour as well. That's the name of it. But he does have a non-profit already sort of organisation.
Yeah. Well, it's just sitting there doing nothing, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. Absolutely fantastic. And another fun one, a young man called Vikas Jayani in India, and part of his dream was becoming a pilot, and he's just completed his further part of the dream, which is really good fun. So he lives in a village in India, and he made a promise to the elderly in his village that once he became a pilot, he'd take them on their first air flight, which he did. 22 residents flew to Amritsar, which is where the Golden Temple is and all these wonderful places are. I mean, obviously, and these majority old women were they couldn't believe that he kept to his word and everything. Their first time, and just was so excited about it. I mean, the whole thing is it's really family orientated. So his family is so proud of him and everything. And extended family means a lot. Not so much over here, or with some people it does. So it's really lovely. And moving on to London-based milkman. Again, it's a sort of feel-good story. Ian Beardswell has become a local hero thanks to his passion of helping others. So he does his milk round, which he's done for years and years. But just as important to him is helping the community. Because he's always out at like 4 in the morning and different times. So he makes it his mission to see what's going on. And he's helped so many people. Just it may be car thieves or returning laptops, lost pets and various things. But his most recent thing was he helped TV producer Sasha Rickard and her daughter. They had a burglary, and they were really worried. They couldn't ring the police, and she just didn't know what to do. And obviously she had her daughter with her, and he realised something was wrong because the door was open. But he was just so extraordinarily reassuring to her, and really it was very special. So he got an award from where he works, and she delivered a nice present and everything. But he just, she found it strange because obviously they're strangers to him, but he just thinks it's part and parcel of his job, which is lovely. Like that. We do.
Helena, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, and we'll see you again next week for some more positive news.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Okay. So everybody, after the break, we have on our business expert, Chelsey Baker, who'll be giving her tips on how to overcome challenges and setbacks. And Dr. Rob Hicks answers your medical questions in this week's Doctor's Answers segment. Here's one of the questions we received. I'm losing weight, but I'm not stressed or worried about anything, and I eat reasonably well. What could the issue be? Find out after this break. Hi, I'm Chrissy B, host of the UK's only TV programme dedicated to mental health and well-being, The Chrissy B Show, which airs on MyTV Sky 191 every Monday, Wednesday and Friday. Follow our social media on YouTube, Instagram and Twitter at Chrissy B Show and our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. For more information, visit chrissybshow.tv. Welcome back to today's Chrissy B Show, everybody, and we're talking about finding a purpose in life. So now it's time to go to Chelsey Baker on how to overcome challenges and setbacks in business.
Hello, my name's Chelsey Baker and I'm an award-winning business mentor and resident business expert here on the show. Today, I'm going to talk about how to overcome challenges and setbacks and share my thoughts, tips and ideas on how to avoid and overcome challenges in business. Of course, challenges and setbacks for a business can actually be a good thing. They can be a barrier to entry. If it was that easy setting up a business, everyone would do it. So this is why sometimes companies boast about how long they've been in business for, perhaps using the words established since 1985 or stating that they have 15 years experience in whatever field. What they're really saying by saying those things is, we're here to stay. We're not temporary. We're not going to disappear when there's a problem or things go wrong, and that they have evolved with the times. So if you're not meeting new challenges in your business, this may imply that you're not, perhaps you're resting on your laurels, you're not looking for other sectors or markets to expand your business in, or not seeing what your competition is up to. So here's some useful tips on how to overcome a business challenge or setback should you experience it. My first tip is sleep on it. Often, so often, when we wake up the next day after something terrible's happened and we think, oh my God, that was such a big deal, or it was a complete disaster, with fresh eyes, the next morning things really don't seem that bad and perhaps not so difficult to overcome. So having some rest and a clearer mind will really help you see things in perspective. And in the great scheme of life, just take a moment to think about whether this really is such a big problem. Think about how you've overcome obstacles and difficulties in the past, and how you've had so many other things that have perhaps been worse happen to you and you overcame them before. My second tip is communication. We're in a world of 24-hour news, social media, online, instant apps, so communication is absolutely critical. Try to contact your existing customers, not just when you want to tell them some bad news or when you want something from them or want to sell to them. This is when, if a PR disaster happens, they're much more likely to want to hear what you have to say and to hear your side of the story. So really take the time to listen to your customers' feedback and criticisms and act upon them. Don't just pay lip service, because if a customer says there's a problem or fault with your product or service, then tell them that of course you take their comments and things very, very seriously, and you'll take appropriate measures to ensure that it won't happen again. Don't just ignore customers' requests either, because they may decide to start shopping elsewhere for their business. So being forewarned is forearmed, and knowing future trends and looking at future needs is really key to keeping up with your competition. My third tip is choose your words carefully, because as we all know, bad press or PR can ruin and seriously damage a business. There's been plenty of examples of this happening. One that personally springs to mind that I know about was Ratner's Jewellery. My goodness, the jewellers, they had a negative comment and it wiped millions off the value of the company because the chief executive said in a speech that one of their products was rubbish. Overnight, people stopped buying the jewellery, the company was so devalued, and it went from being one of Britain's biggest jewellery group into the red and nearly resulting in the firm's collapse. So this is why, of course, you should be very careful about what you say in public and choose your words carefully. You never know who is listening. So really look out for those negative social media comments or bad reviews. We live in a rate or slate society now. Websites that could potentially damage or harm your business because of a bad review. So if you do have the unfortunate experience of having some bad press about your business, then you do have the option to give your side of the story and consider perhaps listening or, to improvements that your customers have to say and listing all the improvements you've made perhaps after the incident occurred. My fourth tip is plan for the worst to happen. If you do this, then you'll be better prepared and not taken by any nasty surprises. Think about what might happen if your main supplier went out of business. Or perhaps if there's a tube strike, a plane airstrike, a postal strike. You need to put contingency plans in place. Let's just say, for example, if there was one of these strikes, perhaps one of your employees is an HGV truck driver or driver. Maybe you could have an agreement that during any tube strikes or potential strikes that they could drive the employees into work. You know, do you actually know the skills of your workforce? Now is the time to find out. Who is first trained in your organisation? Who are your fire wardens? Are you up to date with current health and safety regulations? These are all things to think about before, not when you have an emergency. Let's talk about insurance. Do you have the correct business insurance, public liability insurance, professional indemnity insurance? When was the last time you actually checked and looked at your policy to see if you were covered? With crime and cybercrime becoming more prevalent and cyber attacks happening and malware, does your current policy cover you for that? Do you need key man insurance? Do you have access to a lawyer and perhaps the appropriate funds set aside should any unfortunate circumstances arise? This is where we really must not leave it until an emergency happens to find out. When you estimate how long it will take to do something or how much it will cost you, you need to allow in some time for slippage in case things don't go according to plan. Most projects have at least 5% budget contingency, 5% time contingency. What do you have? What time have you allocated for your project? Think about how often projects go over their completion date, and this is partly because they've not allowed enough contingency time. What if your servers went down at work at your organisation? If your computers were all lost in a fire, what offside backup do you have and how would you continue to operate the business? So my advice, draw up a worst case scenario of potential disasters and how you would overcome them. My last tip is safety in numbers. Perhaps you can have an agreement in place for an emergency situation that may arise. For example, local authorities, they have an agreement that perhaps if their computers go down, they can use another local authorities and vice versa. They do this because they're so dependent, of course, on their computers. I know with coach companies, they have an agreement that if there's a breakdown, their customers can travel by their competitors' coaches instead. So who could you potentially partner or collaborate with in the case of an emergency? And my final tip is challenges. The world does not stay constant. Many large companies go bankrupt. You might remember Kodak or Blockbusters. They went out of business because hardly anyone was renting DVDs or videos. They didn't move with the times. So always think about what new developments may make your product or service less useful. As we all know, retail shops, for example, are being badly hit by internet shopping. So if you want to continue to be a place where people actually go to shop, then I think you're going to have to offer something extra or different for your customers. Maybe a personal face-to-face service or advice or expertise or human-friendly interaction could be the answer. We've all seen how libraries have adapted as the world has changed. They now let you borrow DVDs, they do dance classes, courses, they have computer terminals, cafes, events for kids and adults. They no longer now just lend books. So are you adapting and changing with business times? Are you keeping up with trends and technology? Do you need to consider diversifying to adapt to changing technology and artificial intelligence coming in? If you look at the Virgin Group as an example, they've multiple businesses, airlines, credit cards, trains. Would they be anywhere near as successful if they just sold music? As you know, HMV, there's another example. They didn't diversify. People were not buying music from the shops anymore. It was all online. So ask yourself, will there still be a need and demand for your business in 10 years' time? Please start planning ahead now for any future changes or challenges you may face in the future. So that's it from me. I really hope my suggestions help you overcome any business setbacks or challenges. Keep going, and I hope you've enjoyed my tips for today. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Chelsey there. So now it's time for Doctor's Answers with Dr. Rob Hicks. Hello, Rob.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
I'm very well. You okay?
Yes.
So we've got some questions from our viewers for you once again. Are you ready?
I am indeed. Thank you.
Okay, so first question. Does all breast cancer have to result in having the breasts removed? A friend of mine has been getting treatment. She's already lost all her hair and has now been told that her breast needs to be removed. Although she will receive a new reconstructed breast, they said that they will not be doing the other breast for her. She's really concerned that one breast will look totally different to the other. She's only in her late 30s. Please, are there any other options?
There's a lot of questions in there. There's somebody who's very concerned about their friend. But, you know, it's good that the friend has somebody who's concerned and interested. The answer to your initial question is no. It's not always necessary to remove the whole breast, called a mastectomy. However, the breast cancer specialists will always choose the option that is felt to be the best option and the option that has the best chance of a cure for the individual woman. And of course, the treatment that's offered depends on the type of cancer, the size of the cancer, and indeed whether or not the cancer has spread, and if it has spread, how far it's spread elsewhere in the body. It sounds like your friend has already had chemotherapy, because you mentioned hair loss. And this is sometimes done to actually shrink the size of a breast cancer tumour before surgery is performed, either to remove the tumour just on its own or to remove the whole breast. The other question that you raised is about reconstruction. And I think nowadays reconstruction after breast cancer surgery is actually really very good, and your friend can really much help you feel that the breast will look very similar after that procedure is done. I think what I would ask you to encourage your friend to do is to ask lots of questions. Ask questions of the breast cancer surgeon specialist, ask questions of the breast cancer nurse, and indeed ask whether it's possible to see pictures of other women who've had reconstruction, so that she can be reassured actually that the procedure is effective and that breast can be made to look very similar after surgery is performed. I think it would be good, with your friend's permission, if you went along with her, not just for support, but actually maybe to remind her about certain questions that she's already been asking you about, or with her permission again, to ask questions on your behalf. And we're very lucky here in the UK. We've got a number of very good breast cancer charities, and they've got excellent helplines. So you might want to encourage her to get in touch with one of those helplines and have a chat through the questions that she has.
Brilliant. Okay, next question, Rob. My son has a peculiar snore. It's something to do with the bridge in his nose, and he bleeds when he gets really hot. Is there anything I could give him to help? He's 6.
I'm always wary of giving a child something without getting it confirmed that it's appropriate from the doctor. Okay. So I think what's very important is, you mentioned it's an abnormal, or it's a peculiar type of snore. Then I would make sure you've got a precise diagnosis from the doctor, and then the appropriate treatments can be recommended by your doctor. I mean, generally speaking, the sort of things that might be advised is to maybe sew a tennis ball into his pyjama top so that he's lying on his side when he's sleeping, because that might mean that, I mean, for general snoring, that means that people are less likely to snore. Or sometimes you can get a wedge pillow, and again, that keeps somebody on their side, and in the majority of cases makes snoring less likely. Nasal strips can be used. They open up the nostrils and help breathing through the nose rather than through the mouth, because actually it's mouth breathing that tends to cause the snoring. You might want to think about a humidifier to improve the moisture in the air. That can sometimes help. But again, have a chat with your son's doctor to see what treatments are appropriate, and then you can, and suitable, and then you can get these either from the doctor or indeed from your local pharmacist.
Brilliant. Last question for today, Rob. I'm losing weight, but I'm not stressed or worried about anything, and I eat reasonably well. I know lots of people would love to lose weight without trying, but I'm not overweight and now getting a bit concerned. What could the issue be?
There are a number of issues, and this is sort of what we call a red flag in medicine for me, somebody who's losing weight without knowing why and not trying.
Okay.
So I would urge you to seek your doctor's advice as soon as possible about this. Get to the bottom of it. Losing weight without trying is often down to an underlying medical condition, particularly if it's associated with other symptoms. And the sorts of symptoms that would alert us to be very concerned are things like shortness of breath, sweating, heart palpitations, a change in bowel habits, maybe passing blood in the urine or when you open your bowels, those sorts of things. It could actually be down to a metabolic problem, so maybe diabetes, for example, or it might be an overactive thyroid. It might be a side effect of a medication that you're taking. So if you are taking any medication, have a look at the information leaflet that comes with it. I think always the concern in healthcare, if somebody's losing weight without any explanation and they're not trying to lose weight, is there underlying cancer going on here? And of course, the sooner a cancer is diagnosed, the better the chance of complete cure. That said, it might be the fact that you have a healthy lifestyle and you're doing more exercise, or your job means you're exercising more than you're used to. And the simple fact is you're burning off more calories than actually you're taking in. But I would urge you to get your doctor's opinion as soon as possible, please.
Definitely. Rob, thank you so much.
My pleasure as always, Chris.
See you again next week. Thank you. Okay, everybody, so now after the break, we've got Lily Soutter answering your nutritional questions, including this one. Is white rice actually bad for you, or is it just the case that brown rice is better for you? Find out the answer after this. Welcome back to today's Chrissy B Show, everybody. And as you know, we love to cover all aspects of mental health and well-being on this program, and nutrition is definitely one of them. And today we have our nutritionist Lily Soutter to answer your questions. Welcome to the show, Lily.
Hello.
So we have a few questions here from our viewers, some very interesting ones actually. And the first one, I'm quite interested in this one as well. This person's saying, is white rice actually bad for you? Or is it just the case that brown rice is better for you? I don't generally eat white rice, but when I have a curry, I love to have white rice with it. What's your opinion?
Okay. So there isn't any singular food which is bad per se. It's got to be thought of in context of the diet as a whole.
Okay.
Whole grain rice or brown rice does come with additional benefits. So when you refine rice and you take out the outer sort of shell or the outer layer of the rice, which happens to white rice, you remove a huge amount of fibre from that rice, and you also remove key sort of vitamins and minerals. So nutritionally, whole grain or brown rice comes with more nutrients and more fibre. As a population, we underconsume fibre. We are meant to get 30 grams in per day, and we only get around 15 to 18 grams in per day. Wow. So if you are solely focusing on white refined carbohydrates like white rice, white bread, white pasta, white flour, you could be pulling a lot of this fibre out of your diet. So where you can, I would advise choosing brown rice, but obviously it's in context of a diet as a whole.
So every now and then it's fine. It's not,
absolutely.
Yeah, okay, brilliant. Okay, another question for you, Lily. Is it better to blend fruits or eat them in their natural form? I'm concerned about affecting the nutritional value by blending.
So if you generally underconsume fruit, I would say have it in the form which is easiest to consume for you long term. If you do blend it, it does obviously change the structure of the fruit. So you are breaking down the fibre within the fruit, which means that that juice or smoothie could affect your blood sugar levels to a greater extent. It could have a greater impact because your body has to do less. It has less work to do to digest that fruit. It doesn't necessarily mean that's a bad or an unhealthy thing. A lot of the smoothies you find in supermarkets tend to be solely fruit, and they can have high sugar contents, and they can affect blood sugar to a certain extent. But if you're making smoothies at home and you're blending fruit, I would think about using maybe one portion of fruit and adding other things to that smoothie, other nutritious things like yogurt or chia seeds or nuts or nut butter. And that combination will help to balance blood sugar. It helps to slow the rate at which that sugar reaches the bloodstream. Eating it whole, obviously, you're going to get a lot of fibre there, and it will provide a slow release of sugar to the bloodstream.
Brilliant. Okay, and last question for today. I love oily fish like mackerel. Is it possible to eat too much of this?
Yes, so too much of a good thing is possible. So the government guidelines for fish are to consume 2 portions of fish a week, one of which is oily, and mackerel is an oily fish. It's rich in omega-3 fats, which obviously has benefits to the brain, to the body, cardiovascular health. It's thought to play a role with mood. And mackerel is also a source of vitamin D, so it is a positive thing to have in the diet. But it's advisable maybe to stop at sort of 4 portions of fish a week because of the toxicity, because oily fish does come with sort of heavy metals. Our oceans aren't particularly clean, and unfortunately all these toxins get stored in the fat in the fish, in the oils, which is unfortunate. But it's just being cautious of overdoing it on that side of things.
Okay, but the goodness of the fish outweighs the...
It does if it's in moderation. And for those who are pregnant or thinking about becoming pregnant or breastfeeding, should definitely not exceed 2 portions of oily fish a week, like mackerel, purely because of the toxicity in the fish.
Wonderful. Okay, thank you, Lily,
so much. That
was really interesting. Great. Brilliant. And everybody, if you'd like more information about Lily, all you need to do is visit our website, which is chrissybshow.tv. You can scroll down and you'll find all her details there. So now it's time for my final thoughts of the day. So I'd like to thank all of my guests today that came on the programme, especially Colin, who came all the way from Liverpool. Now, I know that might not seem like a big deal for some people, but we're going through so much and through so many mental health issues, and also he hasn't actually left his house alone since May, and he came all the way from Liverpool to London. So I think that was a massive achievement. So I want to thank him again for making that effort and for coming on to talk about his mental health issues and to raise awareness. So now what I'd like to talk about, my take on today's program, that it's so important to have a purpose in life. However, it's also very important to remember that your purpose shouldn't distract you from dealing with any issues that you're going through. So, you know, some people throw themselves into work, some people throw themselves, you know, doing the best for the family and providing for them, but they end up not really addressing the personal issues that they're going through, whatever mental health issue, whether it's depression, whether it's psychosis, whatever it is, they kind of just carry on and they try to put all their focus, all their strength into the purpose that they have, but then they can't even fulfill it properly because of everything that they're going through. So very, very important that you do get help for the issues that you are going through. So in my personal case, I wouldn't say I really had a purpose in life. It was basically what Audrey spoke about earlier, that I was living someone else's purpose. I was living the plans that my father had for me, which was to get my degree and then move to Cyprus, have children, all the stuff, that usual stuff that probably a lot of Mediterranean parents want for their kids. But it was only when I went through depression, and then after I got my recovery, I beat everything that I was going through, and I found my faith in God. That's when I actually found the purpose, because then I really knew what I wanted to do after that. Before, I was just kind of doing what I thought was expected and doing what everyone does, you know, settle down, get a job, get married, have kids, all that kind of stuff. Now, after I went through what I went through and then I recovered, my whole purpose completely changed. It's like I had my own purpose this time. It wasn't my parents' purpose. I had my own purpose, and now all I want to do is to help other people recover from depression. Whether that's through this TV show, I mean, you know, this, as I don't know if some of you know, but this TV program is sponsored, and as long as, you know, the TV program is sponsored, we'll continue doing it. But if one day, you know, I need to go somewhere else to continue with mental health work in another way, I will do that, so the TV show won't necessarily continue. So I will basically do, my purpose is to help people, and I will do, whether that's TV, whether that's radio, whether that's talks, I will continue doing that, and that's what drives me, and that's what makes me happy, because I know it's helping others, and I know that I don't want other people to go through what I went through when they don't have to. Well, everyone, we have reached the end of today's program, but if you have a story that you would like to share, please do email us on info@chrissybshow.tv. You can also tweet or Instagram us @ChrissyBShow, or leave a message on our Facebook page, The Chrissy B Show. And if you'd like to know more about my mental health journey, all you need to do is visit my website, which is mylifeafterdepression.com. Until next time, bye for now.